Hey, this is Anney.
And Samantha.
And welcome to Stuff I Never Told You, production of iHeartRadio.
And welcome back. I guess we're doing a small Monday mini series.
Yeah. A Monday mini series.
Yeah, there we go. Like, that did not make sense in my head because it kind of brought back some conversations when we had the original. We were a little sarcastic on the first episode about what was happy, and then we talked a little more about what was actually being said as being happy or unhappy. We did talk about people who were unhappy. In this third part, if you just listen, we talked about couples and who are the happiest couples, and just talking about what some of those characteristics look like. Anney, before we start, I do need to know, where's the last place you went when we were traveling?
It was Canada. It was Toronto, Canada. Yeah.
Yeah, because I was in Florida at the same time.
You were.
And everything was slowly shutting down.
Yeah. I thought I might not be able to get out of Canada.
That was Oh, yeah. You were like, I might be stuck here.
Yep.
I forgot about that.
We can laugh about it now. Of the places to be stuck, it was not bad.
Because you were in Quebec?
No, I was in, oh my God, what did I say? I was in Montreal. I was
very jealous because I wanted to come and I didn't get an invite, but it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. I got to hang out with some of our cool peoples, Eve, Anna, Holly. So, at least I got to do that. The reason I wanted to ask, because I don't know if it's anybody else. Everybody's starting to slowly travel. I've seen it, and I've been very jealous of that. But I'm still kind of weary, especially now all the mask mandates are gone. And I'm like,
yeah.
I'm going to still wait. But people are traveling. And it happened to be a conversation that when we talk about happiness, what are some of the happiest places? Because I was just like, women and happiness. That's how I started Googling it. And then it showed happiest cities, happiest countries, happiest places for women. And I was like, okay, well, now we got to talk about that, obviously. Yeah, and so we have a few articles, and we're not going to read them, but we'll let you know which articles that talk about the happiest countries in the world.
All right. Yes. So we wanted to start with this article from afar.com and the 2022 World Happiness Report. And so we're just going to read off the top 20 happiest countries in the world, according to this report. Number 1, Finland, followed by Denmark, Iceland, Switzerland, Netherlands, Luxembourg, Sweden, Norway, Israel, New Zealand, Austria, Australia, Ireland, Germany, Canada, United States, United Kingdom, Czechia, Belgium, France.
France is 20? That's surprising. Wait, Italy's not on the list at all.
Yeah, there's some surprises here.
That's some surprises. So I will say I have only been to 2. United States is on there? I don't know if that's true.
We've got some questions, some follow-up questions.
I have a lot of questions. We thought this was interesting because this is not gender-based. It just says happiest countries in the world. So essentially, they asked people on a scale of 0 to 10, with the best being best possible life for them and 0 being the worst possible, and trying to rank where people would put themselves. So obviously, that means this is going to be very, 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 very biased, which is why I'm very surprised that the United States is on this list for 2022. Don't get me wrong. I'm grateful for where I am. Feel very thankful and privileged to be at this place that I am. Being able to be on a podcast and talk about why are we on this list is a privilege in itself. But we know things are happening to the point that many people outside of the country are like, are y'all okay?
Yeah. They asked me that when I was in Canada, in fact. Like, is everything all right?
Are y'all good? Are y'all real good? There was one country that did score the lowest at, I guess, the way they ranged it was 2.404. And then Finland was the top at 7.821 out of 10. So that's a lot of I really need to know. And it's a Gallup World Poll that they use. So I guess we could go look at it and break down the numbers and who they asked. But I have questions. I don't doubt that Finland is on that list. I don't doubt that Canada has been on that list. They've been through some things. Ireland has been doing some big changes. I really want to go. This is the next adventure I want to have outside of trying to get an RV. I really want an RV. Yeah, I went to look at one this weekend too. It was nice.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it was nice. Because they had this thing happening near our neighborhood. And I was like, oh, well, you have Airstream, you have RVs? Let me go look. Anyway, I digress. But yeah, so I'm surprised Italy's not on here. Maybe Italians are a lot more honest than the rest of us.
Well, I know, like, obviously we don't have numbers in front of us, but there have been correlations, or not correlations, but people have looked at like these kinds of numbers and then put them side by side with something like gender equality or even parity in government to see how that might, the linkage that might be there. And we talked about that a little bit in our part 2 of this Happy Mini Monday mini series, whatever it is. So there's just so many factors that go into happiness for sure. And especially this being 2022, what a year to ask. I mean, I guess you could say that about pretty much any year, but 2022.
The last 3 years was pretty much all those.
Yeah.
So these are based entirely on self-perceptions. So that says a lot. And they said they bring in factors like strong social support systems among friends and family, life expectancy, freedom to make choices, absence of corruption in government, and generosity when it comes to donating to charity. So an interesting report for sure. But, we had to take it another step and talk about what are the best countries for women. Not just people, women. So we have a top 10 list from usnews.com. And essentially, they're not the US.
No
surprise. TLDR. This was a 2021 list. So it is a year behind. I do need to try to see if we can find it at number 5. We're going backwards on this one. It's like a buildup. Is Netherlands, which apparently ranked 31 out of 156 countries in the Global Gender Gap Report in 2021. So apparently, I think I've never been. Have you wanted to go to the Netherlands? I've never been.
I've been to the Netherlands.
Your thoughts? Did you feel like it was a great country for women?
I feel like I should put a caveat here. I worked for the European Union for a time, for like 8 months. And through that, I've been to pretty much every country in Europe. Every country is part of the European Union as well, which I guess is Europe, obviously.
Yeah.
But a lot of times I spent 2 or 3 days at a time in a place. So it was sort of, I was there and I liked it, but I didn't get any sense of wow, this place is great for women. Have fun.
It was nice. Yeah, apparently some of the things that are great for women includes maternity leave, great place for new mothers. They're completely covered by insurance. So that's nice to see. We know that they're a little more socialist, a lot more socialist than the US and a lot of other countries, and offer a lot more, especially when it comes to universal healthcare. So I feel like that's going to be why it tops a lot of it off. But maybe that's just me reading into things at where we don't have that. Number 4, Canada, which you were just at. So did you feel like, once again, I feel like you're going to be the expert now. This was a great country for women.
Really have no space to be the expert, really.
It's just because you've been there and I have not. This is where it's at, okay?
I was there for a very specific conference. I have been to Canada multiple times, but this last time I was there for a very specific conference, and it was a puppetry festival, and it was lovely. And again, I had a wonderful time. And I felt like the specific venues and events I went to, it was very, 50-50 or maybe a little more women than men. So that was, I don't know what that really means, but.
So I've also been in Canada. I do have a friend who lives in Canada, and I have gone to see her and really loved hanging out with her. It was in Ontario. I think she's about to move to Halifax, and I'm like, yeah, I gotta go see Anne of Green Gables' home place, obviously. Prince Edward Island. I have to go to there. But yeah, I don't know. Obviously, I wouldn't know this either because we didn't live in that area and get the benefits of the gender gap being fairly close, as well as healthcare and all of that. But it seems nice. I would love that.
Yeah, I feel like the problem we're going to run into with this, Samantha, is that we don't live in these places.
Right. So if you live in these places, places, please tell us about it and how you love it or don't like it or feel like it is great. So convince us to move there. Please, it doesn't take much, honestly.
Yeah, all right.
It won't take much. I won't go to there. Number 3 was Norway, and I think ranked 3 out of 156 countries. Like, dang, that's number 3. It says generous maternity leave. Mothers can take 35 weeks at full pay or 45 weeks at 80% pay, according to the World Economics Forum. So they have a really big appreciation for understanding that being a mother and giving birth is taxing and deserves to be paid.
Yep.
That would be nice to see.
It would be.
Number 2 is Denmark. I want to go. I want to go to the Denmarks. It moved down. It was apparently number 1 at one point, but now it's at number 2. The government promotes gender equality by offering an earnings-related daycare system and a parental leave policy that is probably one of the most flexible in the EU. So that's good to know. Again, there's a lot to be said about women feeling like, oh, I'm going to be taken care of for these inconveniences. Not that being pregnant is an inconvenience, but it can be. Let's be honest. It's not a beautiful, it's not always it's not glowy, happy times for most women. It's hard.
It is very hard.
It's hard. And then number 1, Sweden, moved up 1 position. So they outdid Denmark. Ooh, that was 2021.
Stir up trouble in this happiness.
I want to see if Sweden and Denmark will just fight. I'm just kidding. Don't.
Wow.
Just kidding. Just kidding. Just kidding. But this is 2021, so the 2022 report will be interesting. It was the most progressive attitudes towards gender equality, which was according to a report released by YouGov, a UK-based market research firm. So, yeah, apparently a lot of the Nordic countries really topped this list, and I think that says a lot. How cold is Sweden, though?
It's pretty cold. I had a friend who lived there for a couple of years.
See, I would like it, but it's too cold.
Yeah. It's true. I find that really interesting. I did find, this was like at least 10 years ago, so please don't quote me on this, but I did find a really interesting article once that was talking about possible link between fashion and happiness for women. And in colder countries, like you're covered up and your body might not be as objectified. Not to say that you can't be objectified in anything, but that was just an interesting, I never really thought about that before.
Right.
Yeah, this is way back in my brain. So
now it's in my brain too. So they have more of the rankings in here if you want to go and look at it. And yes, New Zealand does make it in the top 10, and Switzerland, because I would have thought Switzerland would have been higher, but they are, I think, number 7. So yeah, they have definitely a lot of rankings. And if you want to keep looking at this list, if you're wondering, Ireland's at 13. Italy is at 16 on this list, and the United States is at 18. I have more questions. But moving on, because we are in the US and we were kind of interested, we did want to look at to see the happiest cities in the US. And I think I told you, Anney, it was like 14 out of 25 was California based. Right? So we're looking at this list from Mental Floss, which was released March 2022. So just recently, they took data from finance sites, from the U.S. Census Bureau, the Bureau of Labor Statistics, CDC, so several different organizations. They took it out and did this whole metric system based on that. And yeah, California was at the top, including the number 1 city being Fremont, California. But I don't see many like southern states on here. I see Texas, technically not southern, but kind of southern. I guess it's southern, but it's definitely towards west. Arizona, I guess, would be a part of that list as well. But those are the only 2 that I see. Definitely nothing from the Southeast, which is where we're from in Atlanta. I'm not very surprised by that. Any on here? So it's all this list, like I said, there's 14, that's California. There's 1 from Wisconsin, a couple from South Dakota and North Dakota. I was like, okay. There's 1 from Texas, Plano, Texas, was at 22, which was a surprise. Scottsdale, Arizona. No shade to Scottsdale, but Arizona, I was like, there's a lot of ups and downs. So it's interesting to see. And then Madison, Wisconsin, I could see that. And Seattle, Washington. Oregon's not on here. That's surprising.
Yeah, I mean, That's one thing we haven't talked about, but there's definitely intersections of like race involved in all of this. And just so many factors, especially like any kind of self-reported thing, that happiness is pretty hard to quantify a lot of times.
Right. Yeah. So, of course, again, like the statistics is based on economic status. So that says a lot in itself. CDC, that says a lot of itself.
Yeah.
This article, if you're wondering what it is the 25 happiest cities in America. You should go check it out in Mental Floss. But within this article, it talks about if you can't move to this new city, you should try this science-backed ways to feel happier. In a 2015 article, it talks about ways to be happy, including, we've talked about it, kind of the self-care stuff. Sweat it out, sleep more, go outside, get hobbies, turn up the tunes, write it down. I think it talks about sex. No, essentially it says even if it's a solo session. So, Anney, you're doing great on that. You're doing great on that.
Thank you.
Congratulations. So they have all of these kind of backed up. And we talked about these lists before about how to be content, how to care for yourself, and how to de-stress. It's kind of those same levels about if you can't go to these cities. And of course, I would love to travel more, but I still have a little bit of fear. And I think that's going to be a whole thing that we need to come back and talk about, the fear of travel now. Me as an Asian woman, traveling seems scary. I don't want to go to New York. I don't want to go to California, although I love both of these states. However, the rise of Asian hate crimes. And again, I know it's more that I see on the news and it's not as common as I feel, but the fear alone is enough for me. I feel the same way about Florida. I go to Florida just to see family and that would be it. But I definitely don't want to travel right now for so many reasons. And no incidents have ever happened to me, but just the fear that it's going to happen has been a lot of trauma and wariness in traveling alone. But one day I would love to travel again. And I know we've talked about it before. We were having a conversation with a wonderful traveling agency that we were going to go to Portugal, which was not on these lists. Now we may need to rethink our lists, but going to Portugal and trying out. But because of the pandemic, literally, I think it was 2019, the end of 2019 is when we started talking about it. 2020, we were like, maybe by October. It did not happen.
No.
And they are wonderful and have contacted us about almost at the beginning of every year to be like, how about this year?
And we're like, we'll see how this pandemic goes. And still no dice.
Running away from your problems will never, ever, ever solve anything. Except for if you have legitimate reasons to leave, whether it's, jobs or whatnot. And that's not what we're saying. But it's interesting to see who is on these lists and how these lists are made and how realistic these lists can be for women, non-binary, queer peoples, and marginalized peoples in general, because I don't know how much that accounts for it. And I think we've talked about it before, about traveling. Finding people who are going out and really having the real conversations about feeling safe as a Black woman, or I follow an Asian woman who travels as well and saying, these are the places that I felt safe, and these are the experiences that I've had. But that's very important for us to really see beneath just the statistics that's for the status quo.
Right. And as we've said before, happiness is really important. Stress does impact your physical and mental health. And it can impact your lifespan. So this is like it can seem frivolous, but it's very important. So that obviously we've thought so because we've had 4 very long Monday minis on it now.
We have. It's like, we would love to hear from you. Tell us what you think. Have you been in these places? Do you live in these places and you agree, disagree? What do you see? Yeah, any of that. Or tell us if you disagree with the list that we're like, yeah, no, you're wrong. This is another happy place that you didn't talk about. Tell us about it.
Yes, please. You can email us at stuffmediamomstuff@iheartmedia.com. You can find us on Twitter at momstuffpodcast or on Instagram at Stuff One Never Told You. Thanks as always to our super producer, Christina.
Our magic maker.
Yes. And thanks to you for listening. Stuff One Never Told You is a production of iHeartRadio. For more podcasts from iHeartRadio, visit the iHeartRadio app, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to your favorite shows.